welcome to Plant Patterns. My name is Josefine and today I'm gonna show you how to make the Eira top. So this is the pattern I'm talking about. So this is my Eira top. It's a jersey top with two different hues. Today we're gonna make view A, as you can see here, and it's like a relaxed fit tee with a dropped shoulder, kind of relaxed fit and very comfortable. You can wear it like an everyday top. If you make it in a really nice print, it's gonna still be a beautiful top, but it's also good for like working out or sleepwear or just like lounge. Yeah. So I'm really excited about this. And I'm wearing the Eden dress that you saw me make last week. And I had two fabrics that you guys voted on, and this one won for the Eden dress. And I thought I'm gonna use this one for the Eira top. So this is also a viscose jersey. It's very soft and drapey, and I think that's perfect for the Eira pattern. You can find the paper pattern and the PDF pattern on plantpatterns.com. I will put the link down below. And once you have the pattern and your fabric, let's get started. So we're gonna start by cutting out the pattern. So we're gonna need the front piece unfold, back piece unfold, yoke unfold, two sleeves and the neckband. For view A, we actually need a pair of yoke because of the opening at the back. If you're making view B, just a straight up neckband, no bow, you cut the yoke unfold. But I'm making view A with the bow, so two yokes and the back bodies unfold. We also need a little binding for the yoke. So we're gonna need our yoke pieces and our tiny yoke bindings. We're gonna fold the yoke binding like this, place it right sides together with the yoke, and sew with an overlocker or a normal zigzag stitch. And then when that's done, I'm gonna fold over and press like this. Now we're gonna put the lower back together with the back yoke. So we have the lower back piece here, and we're gonna put the yokes right sides together with the back piece. At the center back we put our notch here, and that's where the both binding pieces of the yoke are gonna meet. So they're not gonna overlap, they're just meeting there. You can baste over the bindings here, or sew a few stitches on your regular sewing machine just to make sure the binding pieces stay exactly at the center back. But it's not necessary if you don't, like if you feel like you have control and it will stay correctly, you don't have to baste, but that's a tip if you're a bit unsure of, or if your fabric is really slippery, it can be a good idea. And now we're gonna overlock or zigzag these pieces together. So this is what we have now. And now we're gonna put the back and the front pieces together. So here I have the front piece and I'm gonna place it right sides together with the back piece. And we're gonna sew the shoulder seam. Whenever I'm working with jersey fabric, I always find it's a bit harder to use pins. So I have been thinking about buying some wonder clips or like sewing clips. Let me know in the comments below if you prefer pins or clips, especially for jersey fabric. I think it would be a good idea because sometimes it's really hard to pin jersey. Now I'm going to sew up the side seams. I first make sure that the armhole depth matches up and I put the pin here. And then we need a pin at the start of the seam, at the hem. Right there. And then I just put one at the end of the sleeve too. So we're going to repeat that on the other side and then sew on the overlocker or with a zigzag stitch. You can put a pin at the waist as well if you want some extra guidance. Now that we have the side seams all done, we are now ready to move on to the neckline. So the first step, which is really important, is stay stitching around the whole neckline to make sure it doesn't stretch out as we work on it. So use a stretch needle, a jersey needle for the neckline, and just sew. You can use like 4 or 5 lengths on the seam and just a straight stitch to make sure it doesn't stretch. So you don't want a stretchy seam like a zigzag, you want a straight seam, and you just use like a few millimeter seam allowance so it doesn't come out too far here. Now that we have stay stitched the neckline, we are ready to attach the binding. So we're gonna see here the center. I'm gonna place this at the center front. So we're gonna place the binding right sides together with the wrong side of the bodice. So here is center front of the bodice. I have my little notch here, and I'm going to match it up with the middle of this ribbon. There are some guideline notches on the neckline binding on the pattern for center front and center back. Those are only guidelines. You can use them and see if you think it's going to be enough stretch of the neckband, because the neckband is supposed to be smaller than the neckline. so that it holds it together so it doesn't stretch out and become really big. And in last week's video when I made this Eden dress, this is the same material, it's a viscose jersey, and I noticed I had to shorten the neckband piece quite a lot. So I'm gonna do the same here. I'm not actually gonna cut it off because this is gonna tie into a bow at the back, and I don't need to shorten it. Like, I don't mind if it's a bit longer. I'm just going to pin here and start sewing here, continuing and making sure I stretch this a lot. So I'm not actually gonna guess where the center back is and pin. I'm just gonna go by experience with this kind of fabric and stretch this out as much as I know will work. And I'm gonna sew this on my regular machine using a small zigzag stitch. I do this because this seam allowance is gonna be completely enclosed once we're done with it, so I don't really need overlock to finish the seam, and the overlock seam can be a bit bulky for this step, so that's why I'm doing it with a regular zigzag. So this is what we have now. I'm going to show you from the right side of the fabric. So this is the bodice and here's the binding. Fold up the seam allowance towards the binding. Fold the seam allowance and the binding so they meet, and then fold again. So you have a nice finish from the inside and from the outside. And then you're going to do your top stitching. And when you come to the ribbon here, you already have a fold here from attaching it to the bodice. So you fold the binding towards the seam allowance and fold again. And this is like a regular bias binding technique. Fold towards each other and then they meet again. So there are no raw edges. And when you come to the end here, you just fold up the edge, fold, 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 and then you do your top stitching to here and back stitch, and then all of the edges are secure. So I'm going to switch to a twin needle. And it's for stretch fabric. And then I have my little bobbin spool here for the second top stitching thread. And now that I have the top here with the twin needle in my machine, I will sew the hem of the sleeves and the hemline at the bottom too. So I'm gonna pull this through to the right side. And the hemlines have 1 centimeter of seam allowance. So I'm just gonna fold 1 centimeter and top stitch with a twin needle from the right side. You can use a cover stitch or a normal zigzag if you want to. Now that the seams are finished, they might be a bit wobbly, or yeah, they're not really flat. So we're just gonna press all of the seams with some good steam. So all of the hems and the neckline. You don't need to press hard, but you do need the steam. I really like this top. I like it more than I thought I would. Both how the fabric feels and the print is really nice, the colors. This pattern works really well with a viscose jersey like this, but you can also use a cotton jersey. And if you use a cotton jersey, all of the notches should match. If you're using a very stretchy material like the viscose jersey or similar, if it's really stretchy, you will need to drag out the neckband, the binding a bit more, and discard the notches on the pattern, because that's more meant for cotton jersey. So what I did with this neckband is I stretched it out more than what the pattern called for, but you will get the idea once you start testing a bit. I also just went to the hairdresser before I started filming this video, and I feel so fresh and ready for spring with this new cut. It was really long ago since I went the last time, so that was really nice. So that's it for this week's sew-along, the Eira top. Remember to subscribe and like this video if you want to see more from me. And until next time, happy sewing!